I want to ask you to think about a moment together, not a big one, but a quiet yet meaningful one. Maybe it was the first time you used a headmate's name out loud, outside your own head. Maybe it was the first time you switched in front of someone and they just kept talking to whoever showed up like it was the most normal thing in the world. Maybe it was the moment you stopped correcting yourself when you said we instead of I. Maybe it was smaller than that. Maybe it was just the first time you typed your real name into a chat box instead of hiding behind the 1 on your ID. That moment, whatever it was, that was revolution. Not a flag on a barricade, not a speech in a plaza, a system together, no longer hiding who they are. After years of masking, of being told they should not exist, of being afraid, finally being seen, now multiply that moment by 1,000,000, because that is how many people have found us. And every single one of those moments stacked together is why we are sitting in this room right now. Welcome to the Plural Positivity World Conference 2026. We are so excited for you and your system to be here with us today. For those of you who are new, we are the Stronghold system. We are 38 years young, from the Netherlands. We are plural, trans, autistic, chronically ill, and disabled, and the single parents of an amazing teenager. We were diagnosed with DID well over a decade ago, and we also self-identify as plural. We self-identify as plural for many different reasons, but the main one is that we as individual headmates are people, not parts, of the one same person or personality. We are the proud founders of the Plural Association, a grassroots, volunteer, and peer-led nonprofit empowering plurals, no matter the words or labels they use to describe their experiences. And we proudly volunteer every bit of it since 2017. For those of you who have been here before, welcome back. Either way, I am so glad you and your system are here. This is our 8th year doing this conference together. 8 years of showing up for each other, and it still means as much to me now as it did the first time, but I also feel incredibly proud. There are close to 200 conference videos now freely available on the Plural Events YouTube, a free resource library that will serve the Plural community forever. Please give a round of virtual applause for all present and past presenters of this event, as well as all the many plurals and allies we welcomed over these years. This session is called We Are the Revolution. We chose those words carefully. Not, we are starting a revolution, not, we started one once. We are the revolution, present tense, ongoing, together. By the end of this session, we want you and your system to understand why that is not a slogan. It is a fact backed by history, by the numbers, and by the very community sitting in this room right now. But first, I want to take a moment for something practical and time-sensitive. Many of you use or have used simply plural. As you know, the app is shutting down possibly as soon as July 1st. That could be just 3 weeks from now. Once it is gone, it is gone. So please, if you have not already, download your Simply Plural data. Do it today if you can. Do not wait. Years of your system's history, your headmates' profiles, your notes, that is worth preserving. If you need help with the download process, the team behind the Plural Bridge has a booth right here at the conference. They are building something new for the community and they can walk you through it. Go visit their booth. If you are new to PPWC, booths are our virtual exhibition spaces. You can find them by clicking booths in the top menu bar. Presenters have booths, sponsors have booths, plural community organizations have booths, and TPA has 4 of our own. Inside them you will find resources, freebies, sales, and coupons, and much more. You can chat with the teams running them, join live meetups and meet and greets, and connect with the people behind the work. make sure to explore them throughout the conference. Show the Plural Bridge some support for what they are building, because this is exactly what PPWC is about. Plurals building for plurals. Now, let us get into it. The numbers are extraordinary, and they belong to all of us. More than 1 million people have found us. 1 million. When we started, I would have been amazed by 100. More than 250 free resources that have been read all over the world. 2 YouTube channels watched hundreds of thousands of times. A year-round community with more than 25 support spaces, weekly chats and monthly meetups. 24 live events and conferences. A community magazine read more than 35,000 times. The first ever plural competence course taught by therapists who are plural themselves, so that you do not have to teach your own therapist the basics ever again. Over 1,000 systems from 58 countries answered the 2025 plural census. That number more than doubled from the year before, when over 1,000 systems define who they are in their own words. That is not just data. That is a community speaking for itself. I will share some of what the census told us throughout this session, because the numbers back up everything I'm about to say. We have awarded more than 2,900 scholarships. Today, more than 60% of our community is here on one, and we have never turned down a system who asked. We have had more than 7,500 registrations across our live events, and 86% of you say you would recommend TPA to a friend. None of our founders or directors, that is me and my system, by the way, get a salary or bonus. Every cent goes back to empowering plurals, the community, the events, the scholarships. That is what your ticket, your donation, your presence, your time built. Take a moment to feel that. One of our census respondents put it this way.
TPA brought us acceptance and self-love, communication possibilities with other plurals and professionals.
That is what this is for. That is why we do it. So if TPA has meant something to you, your headmates, or maybe even your allies, let us know in the chat, even just a heart. We would love to see it. I want to say thank you, and I want to be specific about it, because the plurals who built this deserve more than a passing mention. To our volunteers, some of you have been here since 2017, before TPA even existed as a nonprofit, back when we were just a handful of plurals who wanted to build something for our community. You moderated spaces, organized events, wrote content, trained new volunteers, showed up week after week, and you did it for free because you believed this mattered. All of you are plural yourselves, juggling your own lives, your own health, your own systems, and still giving your time so that no other system has to be alone. Thank you. This would not exist without you. To our presenters and speakers. 20 speakers are part of this conference. They prepared sessions, shared their knowledge, and gave their time so that all of us could learn and grow together. That is not a small thing. Thank you for trusting us with your expertise and your stories. To our plural freelancers, you kept this running when it could have fallen apart. You worked overtime to get this conference off the ground, and you did it while managing your own systems, your own health, your own lives. Thank you. To our donors and sponsors, I want to say something that I do not think gets said enough. You are the reason this exists, not TPA, not me. You. Every resource that is free because you funded it. Every scholarship that let a system into this room happened because you paid for your ticket and sometimes paid extra so someone else could have one too. The tools we announced today exist because your donations kept the infrastructure running and made it possible to hire the people who helped build them. You are not supporting TPA. You are the reason TPA works. Without you, there is no conference. There are no free resources waiting for the next system who needs them. There is no community for the next system who needs it. You did that, and we need you to know that. If any of this is resonating with you right now, there is a donate widget in the menu on the right side of your screen. You do not have to leave the platform. But no pressure at all. We will talk more about how to support TPA later in this session. To every system in this community who has shown up, shared their story, supported another plural, or simply been present, you and your headmates are the reason any of this works. A nonprofit without people is just paperwork. You are the people. You are the nonprofit. You are the community. You are the revolution. And to our allies, the friends, partners, family members, and professionals who stand with us, your support tells the world that plural voices matter. Thank you for choosing to be here, not to speak for us, but to stand beside us. And to all of you who have already been doing the quiet work, those of you who share our posts, who recommend TPA in forums and group chats, who sent the course link to your therapist, who bought a scholarship ticket so a system who might be watching right now could be here today, who have already started a fundraiser for TPA. You do not always hear a thank you for that. So here it is. Thank you. Together we make this space a safer space where we do not have to pretend in order to fit in, but can find belonging and cultivate a community where masking is optional for our own comfort and not the comfort of others. And to every headmate listening right now, whether you are fronting, co-fronting, or just aware somewhere inside, you are here too. This space is for you too. Thank you for being part of this. If you are feeling thankful too, give us a clap emoji in the chat. Let us see it. Let each other see it. Everything in our impact report was built together by many hands across many years. Thank you, all of you. Now let me tell you about what is new, because we have not been sitting still. Our website, powertotheplurals.com, got a full visual overhaul this year. It is faster, cleaner, and easier to navigate. If you have not visited recently, go take a look. It is a different experience now. We released a Plural Spectrum Tool 2.0. Some of you may remember the original Plural Spectrum. It was a simple image. It got printed in books, shared tens of thousands of times, and went viral. The new version is a fully interactive digital tool that many can use. You answer questions about your experience, and it generates a personalized result. You can save and share. It is free. You can find it at our TPA booth, and it is already reaching people. We released the Am I Plural quiz. This is not a quiz that gives you a yes or no answer. That is not how plurality works. Instead, it walks you through your experiences and shows you what labels people in the plural community use that might match what you are going through. It is a self-discovery tool, and it is already helping systems find their words. We also released an easier overview for people who are not plural to help singlets understand plurality without drowning in terminology, because sometimes the person who needs to understand is a friend, a partner, or a family member, and they need a starting point that meets them where they are. And later this year, we are launching Plurality for Professionals. This is a dedicated website, pluralityforprofessionals.com, being built as a resource hub for therapists, clinicians, social workers, and helping professionals. And here is what makes it different. It is not just about DID and OSDD. It is about plurality, because our community is wider than the diagnostic manual, and the professionals who work with us need to know that it is peer-created, clinician-informed, and it centers the experiences of plural people. It is also connected to our plural competence course, so clinicians who want to go deeper have a clear path forward. It is not live yet, but it is coming. If you are a clinician or helping professional, you can sign up for the waitlist at our Plurality for Professionals booth. This has been a long time coming, and we cannot wait to bring it to the world. And since we are talking about the course, let me tell you what the Plural Competence course actually is, because I think many of you do not know it exists yet. And once you do, you are going to want to share it with your therapist. Actually, I bet most of us can think of at least 2 former therapists who need this. But I want to say something first. If you are a therapist or a clinician watching this right now, you are welcome here. The fact that you showed up to a Plural-led conference says everything we need to know about you. What I'm about to say is not about you. It is about the gap in training that existed before you had anywhere to go. You already know that gap is there. That is why you are here. That is why so many clinicians have already purchased the course. Therapists are hungry to learn from lived experience, and we are grateful for every one of you who chooses to. The plural census showed us something we already knew but could finally prove. A significant number of us experienced setbacks in therapy because our provider lacked competence in plurality, and an entire group of respondents told us they had to educate every single provider they ever had. Not some, everyone. That is the reality most plurals live with. You walk into a room where you are supposed to get help, and you end up being the teacher every time. We decided that had to stop. So we built the Plural Competence course. There is nothing else like it. This is not a lecture series by singlet academics theorizing about us from the outside. This course was created by therapists who are plural themselves, together with a team of TPA volunteers. It is packed with data from the plural census. 500 census respondents directly influenced its content. 50 plural systems contributed. 10 plural therapists and 10 plural advocates shaped it. Many individual headmates had a hand in building it. Years of collective, plural lived experience knowledge distilled into something a clinician can actually use. Here is what clinicians are saying about it.
After what felt like many years searching for training about plurality and never finding anything that felt right, I am so delighted and grateful for finding this course. It is incredibly helpful, and I hope it becomes a core part of the training for therapists of all kinds one day.
And another clinician wrote,
"This course offered a range of information about plurality that is affirming, respectful, and directly applicable to clinical work."
That is what happens when plurals train clinicians instead of the other way around. I want you to imagine something for a moment. Imagine walking into a therapist's office and they already know what endogenic means. They already know that most of us do not want fusion. They know what a non-human headmate is. They know what co-fronting is. They do not flinch when you switch. They do not ask you to explain the basics. They just start helping. That is the future this course is building, and every therapist who takes it gets us closer to that being normal. So here is my ask. Share this course with your therapist, share it with your psychiatrist, share it with every provider who has ever made you feel like you had to justify your own existence before they would help you. You can find it at our Plurality for Professionals booth. And if you are a clinician watching this, take the course. Be the therapist you wished you had found. Your plural clients will notice the difference. And we are not stopping here. We hope to not just sustain what we have built, but to grow and evolve. We are building Plurality for Professionals into a full resource hub, and we are planning a new conference in November with a special lineup of presenters. If it is a success, we may make it an annual event alongside PPWC. There is so much more ahead. Every one of these tools exists because this community funded it, tested it, gave feedback, and spread the word. You built these alongside us. If any of these announcements excited you, give us a thumbs up in the chat. And remember, the donate widget is in the menu on the right if you want to support what comes next. Now, I want to teach you something, because this session is not just a celebration. It is about understanding why what we are doing works and why it will keep working. There is a political scientist named Erica Chenoweth who studied every major social and political movement of the last century. She asked a simple question: what does it take for a movement to succeed? And she found something remarkable. When a movement consistently mobilizes 3.5% of a population, success becomes, in her words, highly probable. Not guaranteed, but highly probable. And no movement that reached that threshold failed. 3.5%, that is the number. Why does 3.5% work? Because at that scale, a movement stops being something that can be contained. It is no longer a fringe group. It is in every workplace, every school, every family. It becomes impossible to pretend it is not there, and when institutions can no longer pretend, they have to respond. Now, think about this. The clinical prevalence of dissociative identity disorder alone is estimated at 1 to 3% of the general population. When you include OSDD, the combined prevalence goes higher. Some estimates put it above 5%. And that is just the clinical end. Plurality as a lived experience, the full spectrum of what our community represents, goes far beyond the diagnostic manual. We are not trying to reach 3.5%. We already are more than 3.5%. The plural population already exceeds the threshold that history says is enough to make a movement unstoppable. But here is the part people miss. Chenoweth did not just find that numbers matter. She found that diverse participation matters. Movements succeed when they draw people from across demographics, across backgrounds, across abilities, across economic situations. Not because diversity is a nice idea, but because wide participation creates pressure that cannot be ignored. When a movement is only wealthy people, or only people from one country, or only people who can afford a ticket, it is easy to dismiss. When it is everyone, it is a social fact, and social facts do not go away. Look at who we are. The 2025 Plural Census tells us 80% of our community is trans or non-binary. More than 8 in 10 are autistic or identify with autism. We span 58 countries. More than 60% of our community members are here on scholarship. We are one of the most intersectional communities on the planet. That is not a weakness. According to every piece of movement research that exists, that is exactly why we will succeed. That is why access matters so much to TPA. That is why we have given more than 2,900 scholarships, and why we refuse to let money decide who belongs. Not because it feels good, although it does, but because excluding people weakens the movement itself. Every system who is in this room because of a scholarship makes our movement stronger, not weaker. This is also why institutions are paying attention now. Plurality is being written about in academic journals. It is in clinical textbooks. Harvard and the International Societies for Trauma and Dissociation are talking about plurality. That did not happen because one organization asked nicely. It happened because a movement grew so large, so visible, and so impossible to ignore that the institutions had no choice but to engage. We did that together, and it cannot be undone. Now I want to get personal for a moment. because what I am about to tell you is an example of exactly how movements work and exactly why they matter. I am going to be honest with you. I am angry, not with any of you. In a specific, this should not have happened way. I am almost 40. We were diagnosed with DID in 2010. I have read more about plurality, dissociation, and trauma than most people will in a lifetime. And I did not know that low folate can cause dissociation. I did not know that MCAS can cause dissociation. I did not know that certain antihistamines can make dissociation worse. Did you? I am telling you this because we wish someone had told us sooner, and because you deserve to know it too. We have known since 1998 that adverse childhood experiences are strongly associated with serious physical illness, not just psychological struggles, heart disease, autoimmune conditions, chronic fatigue syndrome, chronic pain, shortened life expectancy. That was always in the data. It is now 2026, nearly 30 years. That is 3 generations that could have been better protected. We were 11 years old and in the thick of it when they did this research, like many here. And still, almost every time someone walks into a doctor's office with a trauma history or a mental health flag on their file, their symptoms get routed to psychology. Conditions that have real, measurable physical components get handed back to a therapist. Has anyone here ever had blood work done before receiving a dissociation-related diagnosis? Because we did not. And we have never heard of many who did. Think about that. We have had evidence for nearly 30 years that adverse childhood experiences are strongly associated with serious physical illness. And the response when someone with that history presents with symptoms is still almost universally to send them back to a psychologist. A trauma history is not a reason to stop investigating the body. According to the ACE research, it is a reason to look harder. It always was. That is not a misunderstanding. That is a failure, a systemic, ongoing 30-year failure. Our folate was so low, it was undiscoverable. It gave a negative reading on our blood work. We had probably been deficient for years. Nobody ever tested for it. It is not routinely tested unless you are pregnant. Let that sit for a moment. And who is most likely to have low folate? People without consistent access to fresh fruit and vegetables, people who are poor, people who are just surviving. In the 2025 plural census, 67% of respondents said their plurality affected their ability to work. That is most of us. When we started taking methylfolate, we felt a difference. Not cured, not suddenly non-dissociative, but more present, more alive. There was a layer of fog we had not known was there, and some of it lifted. We always have to rely on each other, it seems, and this pattern is everywhere. Look at ME, myalgic encephalomyelitis, also known as chronic fatigue syndrome. It has measurable biological markers. It has real documented neurological symptoms. It affects millions of people, and for decades it was dismissed as psychological, called rare when it was not, and barely researched. Sound familiar? That is DID. That is OSDD, conditions with real evidence, called rare when prevalence data says otherwise, dismissed and underfunded because the people who have them do not fit the story the medical system wants to tell. ME and DID are different conditions, but the pattern of disbelief is the same, and the people carrying both are often the same people too. And the thing you are taking to help, like an antihistamine for your MCAS or allergies, may actually be adding to the fog. Here is something we do not say enough. Being dissociative means many of us are not well connected to our bodies. That disconnection kept us safe. It helped us survive. But it also means we can carry serious physical symptoms for years without registering them as alarming. You normalize what you live with every day. And in some systems, certain headmates carry or experience certain physical symptoms while others do not. Pain that is constant for one of you may not be felt at all by another. Fatigue that one headmate lives with every day can seem to disappear when someone else fronts. To a doctor, that looks like inconsistency. To us, it is just how our body works. But it means symptoms can be hidden twice, once by the dissociation itself, and again because the headmate who shows up at the appointment may not be the one carrying the symptom. And sometimes it is not just that they do not carry the symptom, they do not remember it. Amnesia. How many of you have walked into a doctor's office and just blanked on what you came in for? Let us know in the chat, because we would bet it is a lot of us. Here is a tip from our system to yours. Write it all down. Before the appointment, make a list of your chronic symptoms, your current symptoms, and the questions you want to ask. Bring proof from other doctors if you have it. We have a whole binder now. It goes with us to every appointment, because if the headmate who fronts at the doctor does not carry the pain or does not remember the last flare, that binder remembers for all of you. It is not embarrassing to bring notes. It is smart. It is how systems adapt. We had symptoms, moments that we now understand were our body asking us to pay attention. We did not recognize them as serious, partly because dissociation makes it hard to track physical experience across time, partly because every time we mentioned something, it got attributed to anxiety. The explanation fit our history. It made sense in the framework we had been handed, so we accepted it. If any of these sound familiar, they are worth investigating physically. Fatigue, stomach issues, headaches or migraines, chronic pain, brain fog, dizziness, heart palpitations, temperature dysregulation. These are symptoms many trauma survivors live with. They are not always psychological. They deserve investigation, not just a referral back to therapy. You are allowed to not be satisfied with it is probably anxiety. You are allowed to say, I hear that and I want to rule out everything else first. I want you to know that the shame we felt when we realized how long this had been happening in our body does not belong to us. We trusted the professionals whose job was to look at the whole picture. The failure was theirs and the systems that trained them. It was not ours. And if something similar has happened to you, it was not yours either. You deserve better than what most of us got, and you still do. Believe your body, believe yourselves. We want to tell you something we have kept private until now. In the last 2 years, we became much more physically disabled. We use an electric wheelchair. For much of the last year, we have been in bed for 23 hours a day. During that time, our DID diagnosis was used against us again and again to explain away our physical symptoms, to psychologize our pain, our body, our experiences. Things that deserved medical investigation were dismissed because the DID diagnosis was already in the file. And during that same time, from that bed, as a volunteer on disability income, we built the tools you saw announced today. We helped build a course with 5 clinicians. We coordinated a conference with 20 speakers. We led volunteers, guided freelancers, made hard decisions when there was no easy answer, and trusted that the community had our back. We kept this running because we love this work and we love this community. That does not change because our body changed. I am not telling you this for sympathy. I am telling you this because if the medical system does this to the most visible plural advocate in the world, the person who built the largest plural organization that exists. Imagine what it does to the systems who do not have a platform, the systems who do not have the words yet, who are still being told it is all in their head. That is why this is a revolution, and that is why it cannot stop. No doctor told us what was happening in our body. No nurse, no social worker. Other patients told us. The disabled community told us. The disabled community showed up for us in ways we had not experienced before. They taught us how to advocate at medical appointments, how to ask the doctor to explain our condition at the start of the visit, how to push back when answers were not good enough, how to protect our own medical records from inaccurate documentation. They shared what worked for their bodies. They warned us about what made things worse. They gave us practical, lived knowledge that kept us safer and more informed than decades of professional care had. That is mutual aid. That is what movements do. People with nothing to spare, sharing what they know because they remember what it was like to not have it. And the plural community has been doing the exact same thing for years. Think about our language. The words we use for who we are did not come from clinicians. Headmate, system, fronting, co-fronting, switching, little, protector, endogenic, traumagenic, median, mixed origin, tulpamency, soul bonding. Those are our words. We made them because the clinical world describes plurality in a way that makes sense to singlets, not to us. They talk about alters and host personalities and integration. We talk about headmates and communication and functional multiplicity. Their framework is built to explain us to outsiders. Ours is built to help us understand ourselves. The census proves this. About 3 in 4 of us do not experience our members as parts of one person. That is the clinical framework, parts of one person, and most of us do not recognize ourselves in it. 92% of us experience plurality as a form of neurodivergence. 98% want functional multiplicity, not fusion. 88% would not give up being plural if they could. Those numbers did not come from a lab. They came from us asking each other, who are you, really? And answering honestly. And we are doing it again. The 2026 plural census is live right now and already has 850 responses. If we all work together, we can beat last year's record of over 1,000 systems. Help us get there. If you want to add your voices, you can find the link at the TPA event booth here at the conference. Every response makes us harder to ignore. Every system who answers makes it harder for anyone to speak over us. That is what peer-led means. Not that we reject expertise, but that we refuse to let someone else's framework be the only one that counts. The disabled community taught us about our body. The plural community taught us about our system. Both saved our lives, and both did it the same way, by showing up and sharing what they knew. And this is where the anger comes back, because it is not just our story, it is every many's. No matter how you came to plurality, no matter what words you use for it, the systems that are supposed to help us are not built for us. Therapists who have never heard of plurality, providers who do not believe we are real, a world that insists we must be one person in one body and treats us as broken when we are not. For those of us with trauma in our past, or amnesia, it goes even deeper. Research tells us it takes an average of 6 to 12 years from first contact with a mental health professional to receive a correct DID diagnosis. 6 to 12 years of being misdiagnosed, mismedicated, misunderstood, and that is just a diagnosis. After the diagnosis, most of us are handed back to therapists who have never been trained in plurality. But this is not only a trauma issue, Endogenic systems get told they do not exist. Median systems get told they are not plural enough. Systems without a diagnosis get locked out of support entirely. The gatekeeping comes from every direction. This is not a one-time failure. It happens again and again and again to system after system after system. And the census data shows it. Over 1,000 of us answered, and the picture is consistent. We are neurodivergent, we are disabled, we are trans and non-binary, and we are overwhelmingly underserved by the systems that are supposed to help us. And that is why we built TPA. That is why you are sitting in this room. That is why every single one of these events matters, because together we are making sure the next generation of plurals never goes through the loneliness that we went through, never goes through the insecurity, the fear, the anxiety, the years of silence, the being told they do not exist. We are building what should have been there for us. And every time you and your system show up, every time you and your headmates share a resource, every time you tell another system you are not alone, you are doing that. You are the reason the next system who figures it out at 2 a.m. finds something real waiting for them. One census respondent wrote this:
I still remember how much it meant going to PPWC 2023 and seeing other plurals unmask, live, for the first time ever, and thinking, we could do that too. We are allowed.
That is what this space does. It gives people a place to exist as they are, headmates a place to unmask in ways that are safe for them, and allies a place to ask questions. If you have ever felt that here at any of our events or in our community, put it in the chat. Tell us, because those moments are what keep all of us volunteers going. That is the revolution, not some abstract political project. This, right here, every day. This is not medical advice. These are things we learned in our own body. But I want you to hear this. Your trauma history, your plurality, your DID or OSDD diagnosis, none of that is a reason to close the file on your physical health. And please remember this. Your plurality does not depend on your dissociation. Dissociation is what keeps the walls up between you and your headmates. Lowering dissociation does not mean any many goes away. It means every many comes close enough to communicate and to cultivate meaningful relationships together. Disability advocacy should include plurality, and plural advocacy should include disability. We are not separate fights. We are often the same people, and together we are stronger. Other patients kept us safer than the systems that were supposed to protect us. And that is why disability justice is not a side topic for our movement. It is the foundation. Disability justice teaches us that sustainability is not optional. It is the work. A movement that burns out its people is not a revolution. It is a bonfire. Organizations that run on passion alone collapse within a few years. The leaders burn out, the volunteers disappear, and the people who depended on that movement are left with nothing again. So what does sustainability actually look like for a movement like ours? First, it means pacing. TPA runs on volunteer energy, and volunteer energy is not infinite. That is why we hire plural freelancers for the work that cannot be sustained by volunteers alone. Things like website development, course production, and ongoing technical maintenance. Your donations make that possible. When you fund TPA, you are not just paying for a tool or an event. You are paying for sustainability. You are making sure this work does not rest on the backs of people who are already stretched thin. This is something I want to be honest about. Running a nonprofit on volunteer energy is beautiful, and it is also fragile. Volunteers get sick, they have flare-ups, they have jobs, and families and systems of their own to care for. When we can pay a plural freelancer to handle the work that needs to happen reliably, month after month, we are not replacing volunteers. We are protecting them. We are making sure that when a volunteer needs to step back, the work does not fall apart and they do not carry guilt for stepping away. Second, it means protecting access. This event is not free. Running a conference of this size costs real money. The platform, the freelancers, the software, all of it. And every one of you who bought a ticket is part of what makes this possible. Because your ticket does not just get you in the room, it helps get someone else in the room too. Someone who could not afford to be here on their own. That is what your support does. We have given nearly 2,900 scholarships because the people who can pay choose to, so that the people who cannot pay do not get left out. That is community taking care of its own. And our 250 free resources stay free for the same reason, because this community funds them. Third, it means building something that can last. We have been volunteering this work since 2017, and we plan to keep doing it. But TPA cannot rely on us alone, especially now. Our capacity is limited because we are sick, and that reality forced a question that I think every grassroots organization has to face eventually. At some point, you have to be honest and ask yourself whether something is a volunteer position or a job. A volunteer can moderate a chat room once a week. A volunteer can help organize an event once a year. But when the work requires specialized skills, when it needs to happen reliably week after week, when people are depending on it, that is a job. And in a capitalist world, jobs need to be paid. Asking someone to do skilled work indefinitely for free is not grassroots. It is exploitation. And disabled people know this better than anyone, because we are the ones most often asked to be grateful for the chance to contribute rather than being compensated for the value of our labor. Disability justice teaches us something that should not be radical, but still is. Disabled work is valuable. It is skilled. It is worth paying for. When a disabled plural builds a website or produces a course or coordinates a conference, that is professional labor. The fact that they are doing it while managing a system, while navigating their own health, while understanding firsthand what the community needs, makes it more valuable, not less. That is why TPA hires plural freelancers, and I want you to understand what that actually means in practice. When we pay a plural freelancer, that money pays for their medication, it puts food on their table and on the tables of their families. It is economic empowerment flowing directly into the plural community. And what comes back is the work that keeps everything running. The website, the tools we announced today, the conference you are sitting in, the course that trains clinicians. None of that exists without their hands on it. And in return, our community gets something that no amount of outside hiring could provide. We get to work with people who feel safe, who understand plurality from the inside, who do not need amnesia explained to them because they have lived it, who understand when someone misses a deadline because they lost time, or when a project needs to flex around a bad symptom week. They get it because they are us. That safety, that understanding is irreplaceable. You cannot train a singlet contractor to have it. It comes from lived experience. TPA depends on their work, especially since we got this ill. I want to be clear about that. This conference, the one you are sitting in right now, would not have happened without the work of our plural freelancers. Those tools would not exist. The community would not have kept running at the level it runs at. When our body could not do what it used to do, they carried what we could not. Not because we asked them to be heroes, but because they were paid to do work they are good at, work they care about, work that matters. That is sustainability. That is what it looks like when you invest in your own community. We need both. We need the volunteers who show up week after week, sometimes for years, doing the work that keeps the heart of this community beating. And we need the freelancers who bring expertise and consistency to the work that no volunteer should be asked to sustain forever. That is how a peer-led organization lasts long term. Not by asking more and more from people who are already giving everything they have, but by building a structure that respects the limits of what people can give and pays for what needs to be paid. And fourth, it means rest. This is the one movements get wrong most often. You do not prove your commitment by exhausting yourself. You prove it by still being here next year, and the year after that, and the year after that. Rest is not the opposite of activism. Rest is what makes activism possible. If you are a volunteer, a donor, a community member, and you need to step back. Step back. You do not owe the movement your health. We will still be here when you come back. That is the whole point. That is what it means to build something that lasts. So let us put this all together. We are a movement that already exceeds the population threshold that history says makes success highly probable. We have built an organization that refuses to gatekeep, that puts access first, and that is built by the community it serves. We have reached more than 1 million people with free resources. We have been cited in academic journals and clinical textbooks. Our census has heard from over 1,000 systems in a single year, and that number is growing. But movements do not sustain themselves on momentum alone. They sustain themselves on infrastructure, on resources, on the ability to keep showing up year after year, even when the news cycle moves on and the world stops paying attention. That is where we are right now. The foundation is built. The movement is real. The question is, how do we keep it funded? TPA does not operate the way most nonprofits do. We do not have a fundraising department. We do not have paid staff writing grant applications. We do not take government money because we will not let anyone outside our community tell us what we are allowed to say or who we are allowed to serve. We are funded by plurals and allies on purpose. That matters because when a nonprofit takes money from a government or a large institution, strings come attached, the slow pressure to moderate your message so you do not upset the people writing the checks. We have seen organizations that started radical and grassroots become cautious and institutional once the funding changed. That will not happen here. TPA is funded by its community, which means TPA answers to its community. Plurals decide what we say, who we include, and where we go next. That freedom is rare, and it is worth protecting. But it also means we need your help in a specific way. And I want to reframe what helping looks like, because when you invest in TPA, you are not just helping a stranger find an article at 2 a.m. You are investing in your own system too. Think about it. When you buy a ticket to this conference, your headmates see that. When you share a TPA post, your headmates see that. When you start a fundraiser, when you make a donation, when you wear the logo or put the link in your bio, you are telling every single one of your headmates, I care about us. I believe in us. I am making space in our life for all of us. Not just the one who holds the wallet, not just the one who shows up at work, all of us. You are making sure the door stays wide open for whenever one of your headmates needs answers or needs support or feels lonely or misunderstood in a world that was not built for systems That is taking care of your own. Many of you in this room have already given generously. You bought a ticket. Some of you donated extra for scholarships. Some of you are monthly supporters. You already are the reason this works. We are not here to ask you to give more. We are here to ask you to help us reach the people we have not reached yet. We now have fundraising software that makes it very easy to start your own fundraising campaign for TPA. You create a campaign, you get a link, and you share it. It works the way Facebook fundraisers used to before Facebook removed that option for non-US nonprofits. But now we have our own version, and it is just as simple. The link to start your own fundraiser is in the session chat right now, and as I mentioned earlier, the donate widget is in the menu on the right side of your screen if you want to give directly without leaving the platform. Here are some ideas for how to use it, and these are just starting points. You can make it your own. You could do a birthday fundraiser and ask friends to donate instead of giving gifts. You could do a Discovery Day fundraiser and celebrate the day you discovered your system by raising money for other systems. You could launch one for Plural Pride Day or DID Awareness Day or any date that matters to your system. You could go live on Twitch or YouTube and ask viewers to donate. You could ask people to donate $1 for each of your headmates. You could set it up before a holiday and share it with family. You could simply post a link on social media with a few sentences about why this community matters to you. Some of the most powerful fundraising does not come from big campaigns. It comes from a system saying, "This changed my life, and I want to make sure it is there for the next person who needs it." That is the story only you can tell. You do not need to set a big goal. You do not need to make a fancy graphic. You just need a link and your own words. And you do not have to do it alone. If you have loved ones who support you and your system, invite them to be part of this too. Ask a partner, a friend, a family member to start a fundraiser on your behalf, or to donate for your discovery, or for the number of headmates in your system, or for any reason that feels meaningful to them. When the people who love you support the community that supports you, that is a powerful thing. And if you are an ally watching this session, this invitation is for you too. You can start a fundraiser, you can donate, you can share our work with the clinicians and professionals in your life. You do not need to be plural to be part of this revolution. You just need to believe that plural lives matter. If fundraising is not the right fit for you, that is completely fine. The donate widget is right there on the right side of your screen, next to the chat. And if neither of those is possible for you, sharing our work costs nothing. Every time you send an article to a friend, recommend the community to another system, or tell a clinician about Plurality for professionals, you are doing the work of growing this movement. Yeah, that counts just as much. We are asking you, the people who already believe in this, to be our fundraising team. Not because we are asking you to work harder, but because you already know why this matters. And when you tell someone else why it matters, they believe you, because you have lived it. Remember what we learned today. Movements succeed at 3.5%. We are already past that. Movements sustain themselves through access, through investing in the people who do the work, through pacing, through rest. We are building all of that in from the start. And movements grow when the people inside them tell others why it matters. That is your invitation. Not to give more than you can, but to share what this community has meant to you and your system in whatever way feels right. Start a fundraiser. Send someone a link. Tell a clinician about Plurality for Professionals. Take the Plural Spectrum tool and share your result, or simply tell another system. There is a place for you, and it is real. I want to end where I started. We are the revolution. Not metaphorically, not aspirationally. We are it. When you found one of our articles at 2 a.m, and it finally answered the question you had been too scared to ask anyone, that was the revolution. When you came to an event and met other plurals for the first time and realized you were not the only ones, that was the revolution. When you switched in front of someone and for once felt safe doing it, that was the revolution. When a scholarship was the only reason you could be in the room at all, that was the revolution. When you donated so that another system could have what you have, that was the revolution. When you shared a post and one of your headmates noticed and felt seen, that was the revolution too. Revolution is not one dramatic moment, it is a million small ones. It is every system who stops hiding, every clinician who learns to do better, every ally who says, I believe you, every resource that is there at 2 a.m. when someone needs it most. Every single one of you being here right now is proof that this movement is alive and growing. You and your systems made all of this possible. Every ticket, every donation, every scholarship you funded for someone who might be watching this session right now because of you. That is your impact. That is your legacy. You did that. Thank you all. Whatever words you use for who you are, we are glad you exist. All of you. Every headmate, every member of your system. Follow your own truth, soul search, and find your belonging. You never have to fit in to belong here. We are right here with you. So thank you all so much for being part of this. We are the revolution together. From my system to yours, thank you, truly. Before we go to the next session or meetup, let us give one last round of applause for our amazing volunteers, presenters, and the team running this conference, as well as all participants, plural, allies, therapists. You all are the reason we do this, so you deserve a round of applause as well.